Konami's Castlevania 4 for the Super NES finds the evil Count Dracula back to terrorize the Belmont family yet again. Armed with a whip, a quick mind, and even quicker reflexes, you must battle boss characters and evil enemies through a myriad of the most complex stages ever created. Select your stage and let the adventure begin. Enter Stage 1 and battle across a bridge, through a room and a stable. Beware of the Medusa heads, skeletons, and skeleton horses that are enough to rattle more than just your nerves. Proceed to Devil Forest and watch out for the wicked water reptiles, snakes, spiders, and man-eating plants that seem to be very hungry. In the underground cave, you'll do well to keep your eye on the rocks. And remember, things are slippery when they're wet. As if there isn't enough to look for, you need to grab as much money, food, magic potions, and power-ups as humanly possible. After you complete 10 of the toughest levels created for the Super NES, you'll find yourself in Dracula's tower. And if you can get past his gang, you will defeat the evil one himself. The intense action makes other adventures look like kid stuff. With Konami's Castlevania 4, you can count on spellbinding sales.
What's up, Earthrockers? It's your boy Shovatar. I'm back again for another video. Today I'm talking about Super Castlevania 4. Super Castlevania 4. Everybody loves this game. Everybody says that this game is a masterpiece. They say it's like the best game in the series. As you might have guessed by the fact that I just brought that up, I do not really share these opinions. That's not to say I don't like this game. This is still like a really good game. Like, don't get me wrong. But there are some things about it that really annoy me and that I really don't like, and some of them are specific to the level design. So I won't be able to talk about that until we get to it, but some of it is more general stuff. And I'll just talk about the more general stuff now, just to get it out of the way so you know what I'm talking about when I say that I don't like this game. And don't worry, this whole commentary isn't going to be a whole like me shitting on this game, because I know a lot of people love this game, lots of things about this game that I like, but I have to talk about the things that I don't like first. So the reasons everybody seems to love this game are full air control and 8-directional whipping. And I don't have a problem with full air control. Full air control lets you do some pretty cool things. But 8-directional whipping is sort of overpowered. Like, there are parts of this game, certain combat areas that are totally trivialized by 8-directional whipping, to the point that it feels almost like I'm cheating. It feels kind of like... Maybe that was the intention, maybe it was like to make you feel like super powerful, make you feel like you could do anything, but that kind of... I don't know, it's like too much. It's like too much freedom for me, you know? I feel like I should be able to whip enemies like through the floor, you know what I mean? So that kind of bothers me. I also don't really like the way this game looks, and I don't really like the way this game sounds. And again, these might sound like giant complaints, like I'm shit-talking everything about the game, but the reason that those complaints aren't deal breakers is because my dislike is very mild. Like, I don't hate the music of this game, and I don't really hate the way this game looks. I don't really like either of them. And I'm not talking about all the music. Some of the music is good, but there are a couple of music tracks that are completely ridiculous, and I'll point those out as they come up. You should be able to hear them. I should have game sound for this commentary. No reason not to. One thing that I should also say before I get into the meat of the gameplay footage itself is that I'm only going to be uploading one commentary video for this game. That might seem unfair, you know, I uploaded like fucking 15 commentaries for Castlevania 3, but one reason why I'm only uploading one is that, unlike Castlevania 3, and like Belmont's Revenge, Super Castlevania 4 Hard Mode does not really materially change the game in any way. It does what it's supposed to do, which is make it harder, but it doesn't really fundamentally change things in the way that that I think Castlevania 3's hard mode absolutely does. Most of the differences in Super Castlevania 4's hard mode boil down to like a few more enemies here and there, and then a lot more bats. That was like their go-to thing for Super Castlevania 4 hard mode, was let's just put fucking ambush bats everywhere, and that's another thing that I dislike. Bats, as they appear in Castlevania 3 hard mode, serve to sort of like fundamentally change the way that you interact with the room that you're in. Ambush bats they just fly out of nowhere and take a chunk of your health off when you can't even see them are just like worthless. Because you have to either they jump out before you can see them and they hit you, or you have to go super fucking slow to kill them before they activate. And it's just, there's no good outcome of including those in the game, so I really don't like that either. It's another thing I dislike. Okay, I should try to be positive. I like some of the music. It's very the game's very responsive. The controls work. Some of the enemy design is pretty cool, and the level design, I don't really like. It's funny, I don't like the graphics, but I like, I guess, what the graphics are attempting to convey, if that makes sense. And the boss fights are another thing about this game that I don't like, because the boss fights in this game are mostly just sort of brute force slugfests that you can win just by smashing the attack button, which, if you watched any of my videos about previous games, I constantly shit-talk the mummy boss from Castlevania 1 and Castlevania 3 because that's how you beat that boss. You just fucking hold down the attack button and it dies. And pretty much every boss in Super Castlevania 4 is like that. So none of them are particularly interesting. None of them have like cool patterns to learn. There's a couple of big exceptions, which I'll point out as I come to them. But most of the boss fights are not interesting to me. And, yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But the game, what I like about the game, I guess I just kind of like the way the game feels. Like the fact that you have full air control, the fact that you can whip, mostly like the fact that you can whip in 8 directions. It has like my concerns about that are mostly, oh, and here's oh right, that reminds me of something else. Flailing your whip like that, which you saw me do back there, completely useless. 99% of the time, there's absolutely no reason to flail your whip. I did it there to block a spider projectile, but that was only because I was sort of pinned down by the hand, which is not normal, and in like 99% of the time, I'm never gonna do that. I'm just gonna try to whip the projectile. And the reason why flailing the whip to stop projectiles generally is not always a good idea is because you don't. I don't know. I guess I don't really. It feels like it's out of your control when the whip is gonna actually like hit the thing that's in front of you. And the reason why flailing your whip is completely useless against like bats and birds is because the birds and the bats don't die in a single like whip flail. They'll die in a single regular whip swing, like you just saw there, but like if you flail the whip, they don't die in one hit, so by the time they're close enough to get hit by your flail, they're already in your face and they're hitting you. So there's only 2 spots really in the entire game where flailing your whip is useful at all, and that's literally the last 2 boss fights. So but the problem is that flailing your whip is activated by like pressing the B button and then moving the control pad around, right? Now, I was coming to this game off of Castlevania 3, off of Castlevania 1, and I had gotten really used to like buffering movement. And what I mean by that is like if I'm midair and I'm like swinging and I know that I'm about to like go forward, I'll keep holding like, or if I know I'm gonna like change direction when I land, I'll hit the directional keys like before I've hit the ground, or before like I'm done whipping, because that way I can just start moving as soon as I finish. And in this game, if you try to buffer movement while you're holding the B button down, your fucking whip just starts flailing, which, like I said, is useless. So while you're trying to get like really important second whip swings on things, and if you're trying to like move at the same time, then your whip will just fucking deactivate and you won't get the second whip shot in, and you'll probably get hit or maybe die. Like that's happened to me a couple times in a couple of specific spots. And that problem gets way worse in terms of okay, so there's full air control, right? But if you whip and try to air control, then instead of finishing your whip, you'll like fucking flail your whip in midair because the game thinks you're trying to flail when you're trying to air control, because you're hitting directional keys while you're jumping. So flailing the whip is useful in literally only 2 situations in the entire game, and all the rest of the time it's just annoying, and it just gets in the way of trying to play the game. So if I had to give constructive criticism, I would say completely axe that feature. I know this is a game from 1991, but I'm trying to make my criticisms more than just complaints. I'm trying to say what I think the solution is. I think just redesign, because the two places in the game where flailing your whip are useful are the Dracula fight and the death fight, and like the last two bosses in the game. So it's like really important. So if you could just redesign those fights so that you don't have to do that, and then just take it out of the game, I think that would be an improvement. That's just my opinion. That's just what I think. So those are the major like general things about this game that I don't like, and you'll know. And like I listed off a lot of things, so that's why I don't really share people's overwhelmingly positive opinion of this game. Even though I do like the way that it plays. I like the fact that you can do like the jump, downward whip hit there like that. Like I can't deny this game's fun to play. There's just lots of things about it that I don't like or that get in the way of trying to play it. And here we are actually coming up on a prime example. Well, it's not going to be quite yet. I kind of don't like any of the first 4 levels of the game. Level 1 is just level 1. Like, level 1 in Castlevania games is pretty much always boring and always... Because it has to be, right? Like you can't start in with, like, super fancy shit right at the start. So I can't really fault for that. I don't really like level 2. I think level 2... I don't know. It's tough to say. You know what it is? It's another problem with this game is the sound design. I don't like the way that like the whip's impact sounds. I don't like the way that it sounds when like the cross hits things, and when things die, they just kind of like, I don't know. It doesn't feel satisfying. It's like when you hit something in Castlevania 3, it's like the fact that your whip has like the big wind up makes it feel like you're fucking like slamming someone. In this game, it's like the whip is like thin, and like the sound it makes is kind of like I don't know, wimpy, I guess. I don't know. That's just so. Even though the game is like fun to control, it's like I'm having trouble articulating it because a lot of this stuff is very based on feeling and based on stuff that's difficult to quantify. So I don't like, you know. I don't like have a grudge against this game or anything. It's just there are things about it that I dislike, and I should probably stop apologizing for that. Yeah, I don't like this level. I don't like having to wait for these things to fall or having to like bait them. It's just kind of not fun to have to stop moving, generally speaking. But now I'm really grasping at straws for criticism. But I don't really have a problem with this stage of the level. The stage that I have a problem with is this one, and now we gotta talk about the level design. So because Simon Belmont now has full air control, I think that the developers decided that it would be safe to implement more platforming. And verticality, I've shit-talked it before in other videos, and like shit-talked like the tower level in Castlevania 3, and how like tower levels are always bad. And I've shit-talked platforming too, and this is a great example of the kind of things that the developers now felt like they had license to put in the game thanks to Simon's air control. And I want to point out too, this mechanic here where you swing on your whip from those little like nodes in the wall, I also hate that. I think that's terrible and shouldn't be in the game. Because if you get hit while you're swinging on one of those things, you will get knocked off. And I don't think there's a single instance in the entire game where getting knocked off one of those things doesn't kill you. So it never feels like... the result of that is that it always feels really dangerous. And the fact that you're like swinging back and forth in that way, and that there's like a weird like little hop when you disconnect, it makes it feel slippery and dangerous. And the result of that is that it's always something that you feel like you have to do, and that you want to get over with as quickly as possible because you're so vulnerable while you're doing it. And that's like this game's shitty movement gimmick. I've talked about how Castlevania 3, it's the stairs, but I'll say one thing for Castlevania 3 stairs, you can't get knocked off them. So it's more of a positioning problem, and it's a positioning problem that you have the ability to control, whereas swinging back and forth on one of those things, it's like you can't really control it precisely, and if you get hit, you die. So that's what I mean when I say it's something that the game, it's like the game is making you doing it, and it's not fun to do it. So I don't like that at all. I don't think that should really be in the game either. And there's a great example, actually, of when that's really at its worst coming up here in a second. So when you swing off of those things, Simon's gonna like swings down into the water there. If there's a fish guy down there and he can swing into him, yeah, see that guy right there beneath the platform? If I had swung across the gap there, I would have swung into that guy, and that would have knocked me off and killed me. So that's just dumb. That just shouldn't be possible. And this level is sort of like one awful, one annoying section after another. It goes from 3-2, which is nothing but worthless platforming, to that part you just saw, where like it's more like the game is just trying to make you swing across a bunch of ropes as much as it possibly can. And then here we are again, doing it some more. And then there's another thing coming up here that illustrates a problem that I have with the platforming in this game, which is that even though the game gives you full air control, the problem is that... So I'm coming to this game off of the NES, right? And on the NES, the graphics are very clear, because they kind of don't have a choice but to. Everything's a nice, even square. In this game, there's, like, perspective on the platforms. Like, look at those blocks there. Those blocks are not, like, squares facing the screen. They're sort of at an angle. And the consequence of that is that it's very tough for me to, like, determine where the edge of the platform is. And the result of that is that, like, that jump that I did there on that platform at the fuzzball is like you have to be so far off, you have to be like further off the edge of the platform than I'm used to, or that it seems like you should, like farther off than you should be able to go. So it's like you have to walk off the edge of the platform to jump off the edge of the platform. And I've died there a million times just from like jumping too early, because I feel like if I keep walking I'm going to fall off the edge. But what's really happening is I'm just misinterpreting the dimensions of the platforms because they're being portrayed at like this weird angle. So I don't like that either. I mean, it's more, I don't know, more cinematic, more realistic, but I really hate it because it's not clear. And it's kind of funny how like I'm complaining about unclear graphics and like graphics that are like too fancy of a game from fucking 1991, but you know, I'm just being honest about what I dislike. And I know I said this video wouldn't just be me ragging on this game for an hour, and it's not going to be, but like I said, I really hate the beginning of this game. Like, the first 4 stages are either boring or terrible. 1 is boring, 2 is like okay, 2 is like basically fine, 3 is terrible, and 4 is also terrible. Although not this part. This part's pretty much just normal. This part's just fine. Because 4 is this game's tower level, and they really had like a lot of different things that they wanted to try with this level, and none of the things that they tried were worth it or were enjoyable, in my opinion. 4.1 is the only part that's like normal. Every other part of this is gonna be dumb. This is also kind of dumb, although this is not really. The game's... I don't know. What the fuck is happening here? Okay, I just get hit. That's like... I don't know, man. Maybe that was my fault. Maybe I should have positioned myself more carefully to not have that happen, but I feel like... I don't know. I don't feel like I was in a... I guess I could have dropped off the stairs at some point. Because that's another thing about this game, is that, like, in Castlevania 3, you're, like, stapled to the stairs. In Super Castlevania 4, they heard all the complaints about Castlevania 3 and the stairs, and they let you, like, jump on and off them, and interact more with them when you're like do different things with them while you're interacting with them. So that is one thing that I have to say is a positive, is that you're no longer like. It's always nice to be able to move. Do you know what I mean? Like that's something that I can't. That's something that I'll give in the game's favor. It's nice to be able to like jump on stairs, and jump off stairs, and moonwalk up and down stairs. That's fine. That's good. Another thing I should mention is that this game is very generous with health, and that's in sharp contrast to the Castlevania games that I've played thus far, where a lot of them are really like designed around making health very scarce and really punishing mistakes. So with this game, it doesn't really do that. I think they made between that and the 8-directional whipping, they really made a conscious effort to make the game easier, or at least easier in the combat area, and harder, or I guess more annoying in other areas. And here is worthless gimmick stage number 1 of level 4, the rotating room. Do you remember when I said earlier that there's nothing fun about having to wait? This is a perfect example of that. There's nothing fun about standing, doing nothing, and waiting for this room to rotate around, which is something that the game makes you do twice. And again, like, I know this is 1991, I know this is, like, Super Nintendo, but it's so clear to me that they're, like, enamored with the graphical capabilities of this console, and that's, like, the reason why these things exist, and it really feels... I mean, I don't know, maybe it's, like, maybe it's pearls before swine, maybe it's... Maybe I'm a victim of my era, because I'm not playing this game in 1991, so seeing stuff like this doesn't enthrall me. Maybe if I was playing this game in 1991 it would, and I'd be able to appreciate this, but I'm just giving you my honest opinion and giving you my honest reaction. And my honest reaction is that this stage is shit and shouldn't exist. And, you know, I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but that's just true. And we're going to go from the rotating room stage to the motion sickness stage. This was very, very difficult for me to play. I don't usually get motion sick, and it's not like, I mean, I don't have like a fucking medical condition or anything, but this is just like very sort of unpleasant to look at. Probably the only reason that I'm able to get through it is that it doesn't last very long. If it did, maybe I would start having some problems, because this is really, like, what did I say? Or did I already say unpleasant? I'll say it again. It's very unpleasant to play this stage, and some of these skeletons that are coming out will, like, drop in practically right on top of you if you're just moving forward, so you have to be really, really generous with pre-firing the crosses. And here is a section that I need to do some explaining about, which is that, so when I first did this stage, you're gonna see a section here coming up where there's, like, these stone blocks moving up, right? Now, it's coming up in just a second here. Okay, so here it is. So if I keep going to the right, like right here, right in that little gap there, if I just keep going to the right, I will get to the next area of the level. I didn't know that for the longest time, because once I realized that these like rising blocks lead to different areas of the level, I assumed that the next part of the map would be up these floating blocks, which is why I'm sitting here doing the dance along to the level's music, and why I didn't just go straight to the last area of the level down there, because I had assumed for the longest time that you had to ride these blocks all the way up to get to the rest of the level. Turns out you don't. Turns out there's actually no reason whatsoever to take these blocks up, because all of the areas that they can lead you to that are not the rest of the level, like, are there's nothing there. There's no reason to go there. There's like one cross and one torch, and that's literally it. So, kind of like with Alucard 5, there's like this whole area of level that just doesn't need to exist. And it's another thing that, like, they did because they thought it was cool. Like, oh, what if you had to get on, like, floating platforms? Oh, where should the floating platforms take you? Should they take you to the rest of the level? No, they should take you to a bunch of irrelevant shit. Oh, okay. Why? Why not, like, why do that? Why not just have them take you to the next part of the level? I don't know. But in my normal video that I uploaded, you'll see that I just go the regular way, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So here's another boss that I don't like. This is a great example of, like, a slugfest boss, where it's more about just doing more damage, like, damaging him more than he can damage you, because his attacks are not really very easy or practical to dodge, just because of how quickly the blocks fall from the ceiling and how easy it is for, like, the edge of your shoulder to get clipped by them. So that's another boss that I hate, because it's just, like, spamming attacks until he dies. And it's like, okay, great, what did I do? I showed up to the boss fight with full health. Okay, I guess that means I win. Like, did I earn that? Did I execute anything particularly skillful? No, I showed up with the triple shot cross and full health, and so I just won. Like, I don't know, that's not interesting to me. And now we have another level that I don't hate, only because it's not, like, a real level. Level 5 is only, like, 2 stages, and it's just basically the walk up to the castle. Dramatized, I guess. Like, as in, here's how it could have happened. Now, in Castlevania 1, you just kind of walk past some statues and go in the castle, but in this retelling, they imagined that you had to walk through a bunch of turrets first. And I mean, I'm being an asshole, but I don't really have any problem with any part of this this level. Although the harpies spawn triggers are sort of arcane to me. I don't really understand what makes them spawn, because sometimes when I did these levels, the harpies would, like, 2 or 3 of them would spawn, and then sometimes, like, none of them would spawn. And it obviously must have something to do with your positioning, but I don't understand what position gets them to spawn and which one, and how you prevent them from spawning. But that only really applies to back there. Here in this next part coming up, there's pretty much always going to be a harpy spawning, so I think I just start pre-firing crosses in the air, yeah. So that's another thing actually to note about the sub-weapons in this game, and this is another consequence of 8-directional whipping, which is that 8-directional whipping means that most of the sub-weapons are completely useless. Because what the sub-weapons did for you in Castlevania 1 and Castlevania 3 was they gave you angles of attack that you otherwise didn't have. Like the axe let you attack diagonally and attack upward. If you have 8-directional whipping, and you can always do that, there's basically no reason for the axe to exist. Like, there is literally never any reason in this game to use the axe that I can think of. Maybe one spot in level 9 where there's like a skeleton in a weird place, but like that's it. And of course the dagger is always bad, and the holy water in this game, like the holy water in previous games, like the holy water in Belmont's Revenge, is severely nerfed. There's really only one boss fight in this game that I can think of where the holy water is like your best option, and even then it's not like it's not the silver bullet god killer that it is in Castlevania 1 and Castlevania 3. So what I'm getting at is that every sub-weapon but the cross is completely worthless in this game. And that is a consequence of 8-directional whipping, and it's why, like, it's fun, but like, if you were gonna put it in the game, then you probably should have had different sub-weapons besides the axe. This is bad. I actually can't remember if the stopwatch is... No, the stopwatch is in the game. Okay, so the stopwatch obviously is still fine. But the axe is useless, and holy water is useless. And the dagger is always useless, so I can't really complain about that. Yeah, I've been complaining. I should say something nice. I like this level, actually. I like level 6. I like level 6 a lot, because it's lots of, like, nice environments, nice, Gothic architecture. You're in Dracula's castle, lots of nice hallways, and there's no, like, stupid, gimmicky platforming section. Oh, right. Oh, wait, turns out there is. What did I say, stupid, gimmicky platforming sections? Here we are again. More waiting, more stupid platforming, and more of something that's incredibly unpleasant to me, because I have a very severe fear of heights, and something about these teetering chandeliers, like, triggers it. Like, literally, as I'm sitting here watching this footage playing back, my hands and feet are starting to sweat. I'm not even playing the game, I'm just watching myself play the game, and it's fucking with me. So 6-1 has this wonderful little piece of nausea, of like, anxiety-inducing garbage in the middle of what's otherwise a perfectly fine and non-objectionable level. And, like, I mean, that really is just a me thing, and I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that games need to cater to my fucking phobias. I'm just telling you what my reaction to that level is, and that my reaction is that I do not like it. And that's another thing about this game, is that even though this game is easy, like way easier than Castlevania 3, it's like way more unpleasant for me to play, because of the fact that I don't generally like the art style, or the not the art style. What don't I like about the way that it looks? I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's like, it's not really this level. This level's mostly fine, but most of the rest of the game, it's like everything kind of like blends together into like a mush of brown. I don't know. I can't really describe it, but what I'm saying is that moments like that, and like other moments like 6-1 chandeliers and other like platforming sections are just very, very unpleasant and very very anxiety-inducing. I should explain. Okay, I should explain why I don't like platforming, because that's going to come up probably again and again and again throughout this commentary, and I'll just sort of give my 2 cents. So, Castlevania games have two kinds of challenges. There's like combat challenges and there's platforming challenges. I do not find platforming challenges interesting. Combat challenges are interesting because you can change up your approach. You can get different sub-weapons depending on availability. There's like 100 different ways. There's like many different ways you can react to certain scenarios, and it's like every room is. Oh, I almost shit my pants there because I thought that bat was gonna knock me into the spikes. So now I'm fucking playing scared. It's like every room in Castlevania is like a puzzle. It's like, okay, there are like turrets here, there are bats here, there's like some skeletons here, there's like some, or like there's some knights here, there's some Medusa heads here, that's like the Grim Reaper hallway, right? It's like a puzzle. But once you figure out, and the game gives you different tools that you can use to solve it, but once you figure it out, it's like just a matter of executing it, and the execution is usually not super... I mean, it can be super stringent, but really most of the challenge is in figuring it out and finding the best solution of many solutions available to you, right? And plus, combat situations also let you either play more aggressively or less aggressively depending on like how much health you have left. Platforming is either you push a button at the right time or you don't. I mean, you're going to get mad at me for saying this, but it's literally a QuickTime event. And I'm not saying that every environment needs to be nothing but a bunch of flat hallways with no verticality. What I'm saying is that I do not think that... What I'm saying is that platforming, the challenge provided by it is not interesting to me. I think that it's good to have verticality in terms of creating interesting combat situations. But just punishing... But like just because like punishing you with instant death because you pushed a button like fucking 1/10 of a second too late, or because you walked off the edge of a fucking platform because you couldn't tell how big it was because of the fucking graphics, is just like stupid, and it's just not something that I enjoy in my video games. So that's my basic reasoning is that there's nothing you can do to mitigate it other than like just push the fucking button, and there's no thought that goes into it. It's just about pushing the fucking button. Now, to be fair, Super Castlevania 4 gives you full air control. So there is a degree of decision-making in terms of just beyond just when you push the jump button. But a lot of the jumps are sort of, like the one in 3-4 that I was complaining about, that really is just about positioning. Like, you either jump when you're like walking off the edge of the platform or you don't. And if you don't, you die. So, fucking great job. And I guess the chandelier, like, there's also some decision-making involved there in terms of, like, when you jump, but I'm just talking about, like, platforming in general. This boss dies in, like, 2 fucking seconds, doesn't it? Yeah. Fuck that. Oh, this is cool. Boom! Alright. So, level 6. I don't like the chandeliers because I'm a big pussy, but everything else is fine. And that's my basic reasoning for... And it's especially... Well, I'll talk more about what the problems are with this game specifically when we see them, because this game's most irritating areas are heavily backloaded, and that's really not what I like. If you're going to put in a really obnoxious part of the game, I prefer that it be at the very start so I can get past it quickly. But this game, not happening. This is a great example of what I mean when I talk about like 8-directional whipping being too good. Like I feel like I shouldn't be able to do that, what I just did there, like hitting that knight through the floor. I mean, in a way, it's satisfying, because approaching knights on stairs in Castlevania 3 was always like one of the toughest things, and here it's just like, doesn't matter. Maybe that's why I don't like it. Maybe it's because it doesn't feel like I'm accomplishing anything. If I could just do whatever the fuck I want. I don't know. Okay, like, and another thing I don't like about this, and I don't like this level because I think that the music, yeah, it's a perfect example. That shouldn't be possible. Like that's just too good, basically. This I'm fine with because these fuckers are always obnoxious to try to hit. Although they're much slower, of course, than the hard mode Castlevania 3 counterparts. They haven't had their coffee the way those guys have. I like this level conceptually. I like the idea that Dracula has a big library full of like satanic statues, but I don't like the music for this level. I think it starts off playing like tropical drums or something, or tropical like bells, and it sounds like you're on a Caribbean vacation when you're in a Satan worshipping vampire's evil library. And I think that whoever was in charge of the music for this game was like on drugs, because this music is wrong. The 3-3 music, which I was so busy shit-talking the level design of 3-3 I didn't get to talk about. The 3-3 music sounds like some kind of fucking like maniac jazz session that just went completely out of control. This part of the level is fine. And here, let me talk about why this is fine. This part is fine because if I get knocked off here, what happens is I lose positioning. I don't instantly fucking die because I happen to walk off the edge of a fucking platform. Instead, the consequences are much more organic, and they are consequences that I can respond to, and that I have options in terms of how I react to them. Not the case in a lot of other platforming sections. And also, you'll notice back there that gargoyle took 2 fucking whips to kill, which to my like Castlevania 3 brain was like fucking mind-blowing. Like, how the fuck does a gargoyle not just die in 1 hit? But I guess it's more justifiable there because the fact you have 8 directional whipping means that hitting them is easier than ever. It was always easy to hit them because they were so big, but now it's just like you always have that option. I kept on expecting the books to like fly off the bookshelves. Well, there they are. I mean, floating. But I mean like the shaking ones in the background. Like, I thought there'd be more like book enemies. Like the screaming book in Harry Potter. You know what I mean? The forbidden section. This is the forbidden section. How the fuck is Dracula even getting to half of these bookshelves? Half of them seem like they're floating. I know Dracula could probably turn into a bat, but bats can't like open books. Maybe that's what these floating books are for. Maybe he stands on the floating books to get up to the top of the bookshelves. That's probably it. Yeah, I don't like that part. Dumb platforming. Stress-inducing. Unclear parameters, etc. But whatever. Yeah, this part is cool. I like the way this looks. And I don't like the part with the floating books, but that's really the only part of level 7 I don't like. Otherwise, this is probably like this is a good level. This is the last good level. The game opens with 2 terrible levels, and then it ends with a couple of terrible levels, and then in the middle there's some that are tolerable. So that's where I'm at. I'm in the last of the good times before we get to the shit show. I like the bird statue. It reminds me of Castlevania 3 Dracula Phase 3, where he turns into the giant bird, which I don't know if he's ever gonna do that again, because I've been going through a bunch of games. Like, I'm many games ahead as I'm recording this commentary. And Dracula so far has never done that again, so I'm interested to see if that's gonna happen. I guess this explains those blank paintings the Grim Reaper fight from Castlevania 1. I guess they just had guys hiding in them who never popped out. Yeah, these guys in the paintings are also really annoying. I don't really understand how they work. And you have to, like, I don't know. I couldn't think of a reason not to just do that there, not to just stand there and spam the whip, because I can't tell to this day if they react to your position or if they're just on some fucking internal timer that you can't affect. I really don't know. It's really annoying that I don't know. I also don't know what that red centipede thing was back there. I've never tried to fight that. I have no idea. I don't care. This is funny. This part here actually killed me over and over again when I first started playing the game, because like I forgot that I could duck. I almost never duck in these games, and that's probably one of my biggest problems, because ducking is really useful. And I almost never do it because I'm thinking about killing. I'm thinking about like attacking. I'm thinking about moving forward. I'm not thinking about stopping or hiding or becoming smaller. Even though that's super useful. As much as I like 7, it has a boss fight that's like the epitome of brain-dead, button-mashing boss fight. Which is unfortunate because the boss actually does have attacks that have patterns that can be dodged, but there's no reason to ever do that. Because you just show up with full health, and then you just throw 3 crosses, and then he just fucking dies. And it's like, what did I even just do? What did I even just do? Like, what challenge did I just overcome? like this level is so generous with health too, so it's not like you're gonna get to this guy on your last leg. Oh god, and now we get into the worst level in the entire game, level 8. This fucking level, man. This level is like a microcosm of everything that I despise in Castlevania games. Because it's a bunch of fucking insta-kill spikes. Now, it's and the timing for avoiding some of them is very specific. Not yet, not this part. This part's fine. Fun fact, by the way, about this level in the Japanese version of the game is that everything that you see that's green, like all the slime and the acid in the sewers, is actually blood in the Japanese version. In the American version, obviously they had to censor that because they didn't want kids to find out what blood was. But if I'd known, honestly, that like, I just wasn't thinking about it when I first started playing these games. I wasn't thinking about like regional differences. But if I could go back in time, I would definitely play the Japanese version of this game because I think that would be way cooler. That would really like break up the appearance of this game, because a lot of this game is just kind of a mess of green or brown or purple. So having a level with a lot of like sharp red in it would be really cool, but unfortunately I'm playing the American version because I wasn't thinking, and I really don't want to go back and play this game again to get footage for the Japanese version. You guys are just going to have to trust me on that. There's some games that I'd be happy to play more of if the footage that I got didn't work out. This is not one of them, because there are too many things about this game that annoy me. I feel like bad for talking so much shit, but okay, think of it like this. Everything that I don't shit talk is good, because there are things about this game that are really good. Like, and even some of my criticisms could be taken as like things in the game's favor. Like 8-directional whipping being too good, you could just say, well, that's just fun, right? It's just more fun to have more control over your environment. Like, fine, that's fine. Another complaint that I have is that the levels feel too long. Not necessarily these ones towards the second half of the game, but like sort of some of the beginning levels, they just like feel too long, they kind of go on for too long. And you could argue that that makes it feel like more of an adventure. And it's true, like, a lot of the other Castlevania games that I've played, it's like the footage that I get of my successful clears will be like 45, 50 minutes. This is like an hour and 15 minutes long. So this game is definitely longer than other games, and you could say that's, you know, more bang for your buck, or that it makes it feel more epic, it makes it feel more adventurous, and that's, you know, I can't argue with that. I understand all those counterpoints, and I think that they're totally fine. They're totally I don't really want to say the word valid. Valid has become kind of a buzzword, but I'll use it. They're totally valid. So if you like this game, I'm not like saying you're stupid or anything like that. I'm just giving you my honest curmudgeon's reaction to the things in this game that annoy me. So yeah, that room in 8-2 back there, where it was nothing but where the spike platform was swinging back and forth, and like the spikes going up and down, like that has a really specific timing to it, and it's kind of the same thing I was complaining about with platforming, where it's basically just a quick time event. Like spikes are just enemies that don't move, or that move in very like fixed patterns, so they're not very interesting to fight, I guess is what I'm saying. And they make you wait. Either they don't move and they're boring, or they move and they make you wait, which is not fun. Like here I am, I'm on my grand adventure to go to Castlevania and fight Dracula, but I gotta fucking stand here, wait for these dumb bricks to get out of my way, and I can't risk going too early. Like, I can't not wait, because if I go too early, I get insta-killed. Doesn't matter how much health I have, doesn't matter how well I played the rest of the level, how well I played the rest of the game. If I touch it, I die, and that's just the end of it. Oh, okay. What, I don't know. Call me a whiner. See if I give a fuck. I like the skull. I like the skull doing a little jig in the chains back there. That's pretty funny. I like the I guess I actually don't really dislike the way this game looks that much. I think the way a lot of the levels have a lot of nice little touches. that I appreciate. It's just the way that they laid out the levels that's bad. Like, this is pointless, this little duck walk section, and here we are at the worst part of the entire game, the 8-2 disappearing platforms. This is pure bullshit, because you can't see the rest of the platforms. There's 3 other platforms off of the fucking screen right now that you can't see. You don't know if they're fresh, you don't know if they just disappeared, you don't know shit. And it's entirely possible to get a good pattern on the first few platforms. Like, what I'm waiting for here is I'm waiting for a pattern where the second one appears and then the third one appears. So that way I can, yeah, like that. So I know I have at least some space to work with where, like, the second and third one appeared around the same time, but I very easily could have taken that, like, good opening and gotten to the last 3 platforms and gotten a pattern that was just unwinnable, where, like, the platform just was about to fucking disappear and I got to it at the wrong time. Like, I've literally had that happen before, where I will jump off the platform at, like, the last possible fucking frame, and I still won't reach the last ledge that I need to get to. It's like... And it's before the most boring, useless boss fight in the entire game that just falls over dead, might as well not even fucking be there. The A2 platforms are, like... If I had to list this game's problems, everything that I've just said about, like, the basics of the controls and the music and the sound design and the graphics and everything, that's not at the top of the list. Number 1 at the top of the list is the 8-2 fucking platforms. Those need to be taken out of the game immediately if I was giving a list of things to fix about the game. That's at the top, bold, underlined, italicized, 72-point font. Get that shit out of here. Because there's nothing fun about not being able to see what the fuck you're doing. There's nothing fun about like, just hoping and praying that you just get a good pattern on some shit you have absolutely no control over. And if you roll badly, you die. That's just fucking annoying. And that's where most of my runs died in this game when I was going for deathless runs. Because here's the thing, even though Castlevania 3 is way harder than this game, I would still, like, if you were asking me, like, what do you think, like, what would you rather, if you had to do another deathless run of a game, which one would you pick, 3 or 4? I would say 3 in a fucking heartbeat. You want to know why? Because 3 doesn't have the 8-2 platforms. 3 doesn't have as much, like, dumb platforming, where you have to swing across gaps while archer fish are shooting at you. Because the game is enamored with its dumb gimmicks. 3 just has really fucking brutal combat. And like, stairs. But the stairs sections are all, like, solvable. There's a solution for 5C. There's solutions for 9-2. There's multiple solutions for 9-2. There's solutions to 9-4. There's no solutions to 8-2. There's no solutions to, like, platforming. It's just either you complete the QuickTime event or you don't. Okay, like, I just don't like it. That's kind of the bottom line. And this level, I said earlier that hard mode doesn't materially affect the game at all. I'd say this level is sort of an exception, because they really ramp up not just more bats, but, like, more bone-throwing skeletons. Like, there was a room back there that I was too busy bitching about to commentate on, where there were, like, 3 or 4 more skeletons on hard than there were on normal. And you'll notice there, if you go back and play that footage really, like carefully, that when that golden skeleton jumped at me, what I talked about at the start of the commentary about, like, aiming your whip and then the whip accidentally flails, literally, like, happened. That I was like 1 pixel away from just getting knocked off the edge and getting killed. Where basically I hit the skeleton once, and then I tried to, like, diagonal whip him, and then, like, but, like, I didn't take my finger off the forward key or something, and, like, when I was trying to diagonal whip him, the game thought that I was trying to fucking flail, and because I flailed instead of whipping, he didn't die. But fortunately, I was barely able to, like, whip properly and kill him before he walked into me and knocked me off. So that's an example of what I'm talking about. And if you play that really slowly, you'll see what I mean. Like, I start flailing when I don't mean to, and it doesn't kill it right away. Yeah, level 9 is the only place in the game where hard mode affects anything. And the thing is that, like, hard mode, just adding a bunch of ambush bats, it's like what else are you gonna do? Do you know what I mean? Like, the combat in this game is so easy that the only thing that ever kills you is the platforming. That's the same, like, on normal and hard. The platforming isn't any more difficult on hard mode. Because there's nothing to change. And just like just where the platforms are, I guess. Or throw bats at you or don't throw bats at you. Excuse me. Although this game is good about not making you do platforming while bats are coming at you. So in that sense, it's better than Castlevania 3 with the bat platforming right before Dracula. There's nothing quite like that. Actually, there is something quite like that in this game. Say what you will about the bats in A2 and Castlevania 3, at least they're not fucking invisible. At least you can fucking see them. At least they don't have like 3 or 4 bats just hiding off screen and you have no idea where they are or when they're gonna show up, like with the fucking 8.2 platforms. Yeah, you'll notice at the start of this room, I jumped and like whipped through the floor to kill a golden skeleton. That skeleton is not there on normal mode, but whether it's there or not there is completely irrelevant because the fact that you have 8-directional whipping means you can kill him with absolutely 0 risk to yourself. And it's just like pointless. That jump is actually also really tight, that one right there that I just did. And it's a good example of the game like creating hazards, like creating like really hazardous situations in kind of like strange ways. And I'll get back to that in a moment, but for now I want to point out this bone dragon at the top of the screen. This thing sometimes spawns and sometimes doesn't spawn. And I don't know why. It's not like a hard mode, normal mode thing. It's just like sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not there, and I have no explanation as to why. Yeah, that golden skeleton near the staircase also is not there on normal, but again, you can just kill him by using your 8-directional whipping. So I guess that's what is ultimately frustrating about this game, and that's what I'm kind of struggling to articulate, is the fact that I like combat challenges, and all the combat challenges in this game are completely trivial, because the game gives you so much control over your space. And I know it's a weird thing to complain about, but it's just about, I guess, what I enjoy and what I find satisfying. Like this boss is also like not really good. I'll admit that, I mean, this boss is harder than the level 7 or level 8 bosses, although that's really not difficult. But it just like takes fucking forever. It takes 1,000,000 hits, and then it's just like, I don't know. I guess this, you know what, this boss is fine. I don't really have any problem. I mean, I think phase 1 takes too long, and the way that phase 2 is structured, the fact that it punishes you for attacking it, means that you have to attack it from 1,000,000 miles away in order to attack it safely. And it's another example of what I've said before about boss design, where the best way to kill a boss should be exciting. If the best way to kill a boss is boring, then that's not good. And the best way to kill that boss, because they shoot off like sparkle, like gold things when you hit them, it wants you to hit them from very, 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 very far away, or from a very specific position beneath them. And the specific position beneath them is not really feasible to get into consistently once they become 3 tiny bats, so you just have to jump around and throw across them. So actually that boss is not fine. That boss is also annoying, but it's not... At least it's not a complete non-entity the way the level 7 and level 8 bosses are. And here we are in the second worst level in the entire game. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna take that back. This level is actually completely fine. And after everything that I just said about platforming, you might wonder why I'm saying that, because this level is just like full of platforming. And the reason is that the platforming in this game, in this level, is once you get your head around the idea, once you realize how far you can walk towards the edge of a platform before you actually walk off the edge of it, a lot of the troublesome sections become simpler. Like, there's lots, like, the next 2, like, jumps onto rotating gears, like this one here, and then there's another one coming up. I died 1,000,000 times on these just from, like, bonking my head on the platform above me because I wasn't comfortable with going all the way out to the edge of the platform that, like, feels like it shouldn't be there, but is there. Because of the perspective of the blocks themselves. And all the parts of this level that incorporate like rope swinging are you can kill the enemies that are around you so that you're always doing it in a way that's relatively safe. So even though this level is full of platforming, and I just like shit-talked platforming to the nth degree, it's usually not that bad because none of the jumps are particularly tight. It's not like 7B in Castlevania 3. They're all pretty forgiving. This part is pretty annoying though. This took me a long time to figure out how to do, where you have to like crouch and not walk forward on the gear and then just let it carry you, so you can just focus on the timing of avoiding those spikes. Like this, yeah, this is all fine. This is just a like timing thing. You have to get to that ledge in the right timing. And here, yeah, 8-directional whipping means these guys all just die. This is actually pretty dumb here, these gears, because it's just like it's like a beginner's trap thing. It's like either you know they're coming or you don't, and there would be no way to know unless you were familiar with it ahead of time. So that scared the shit out of me because I thought that Medusa head was just about to knock me into the pit, and now I'm extremely rattled. So I walk off the edge of the platform and I die. And there's the first death of the run. And as you can see, I'm kind of stunned. And the reason that I was rattled after that Medusa head hit me is because I got it into my head that I wanted to do a deathless hard mode run of this game. And that's what I was going for at this point in time. So that was like my death that could have ended the run had I chosen to commit full, you know, but to commit to the hard mode deathless idea. But I was so done with this game at that point, and that I just figured, fuck it, I'll just upload a normal mode run so people can see like the differences, minimal as they are, and then I'll just do a hard mode 1cc. And there's the first death of the run. To walking off the edge of a platform onto onto a death pit that was created when there used to be other platforms right there. And that's another thing when I was talking about the technical limitations of the SNES or something, or whatever the fuck, or I guess a conscious decision by the part of the developers that walking off the edge of the platform there, apparently falling back down on the platforms below was not deemed to be a proportional punishment. The punishment for walking off the edge of the platform there apparently it was decided should be instant death. In an instant death pit. So there it is. And it was that was really just because that was really a result of nerves. That was because the Medusa head hit me when I wasn't expecting it to, and I got super nervous and I got like antsy and I panicked and I walked off the edge. So that was more of like an emotional issue. But the reason that I abandoned the hard mode deathless idea and decided to do a 1cc is because, for one thing, just so I could upload some normal footage so you guys could see both of them, and for another is because as minimal as the differences in hard mode are, it is actually still easier to do normal deathless attempts because it's just faster and it's less stressful. Because doing hard mode attempts means you have to remember where all the fucking ambush bats are. But doing normal means you could just go through it more quickly. You don't have to worry about the bats. You don't have to worry about like a few extra enemies. It's just easier. So even though, like I said, the only real hazard of this game is the platforming, and the platforming doesn't change based on normal mode or hard mode, it's just faster and it's simpler to do deathless runs on normal. So that's why I decided to do that and stop trying on a hard mode deathless run. And like, it's unfortunate that happened. But here's the thing. Every death in this game is like that. The fact that the combat is so trivial and most of the boss fights are so easy means that, like, if you die, it's gonna be to getting, like, knocked into a pit or because you, like, walked off a platform. Every death in this game is fucking stupid. And that's another reason why I don't like it, is because it never feels like... It always just feels like the deaths just come out of nowhere, because they do come out of nowhere, because they're instant. And because they're the result of minute positioning errors that are apparently worthy of a punishment of instant death. So, I guess I'm glad that I'm showing that footage just so I can complain some more about that fact. And now we're on to what is actually the second worst level in the game, which is B. 8-2 is the biggest problem in this game because it's literally like bullshit. It's literally RNG. I mean, not completely, to be fair. There's ways you can play that are smart. Like if you go back and watch the 8-2 footage there, like I was waiting for a particular pattern that would give me better odds, but I still could have just died anyway. Yeah, 8-2 is nonsense. 8-2 is horseshit. And then B, I don't know if it's B2 or B3, but I guess I'm going to find out in a second here, is also complete nonsense. And it's complete nonsense for different reasons where the problem is not really RNG. The problem is sort of the game not playing to its own strengths, I guess you could say. Or, it's bad. Well, I'll point it out when we get there. This part is like fine. This part is just like a cool spectacle thing, I guess, where you just have to keep holding right and you don't get hit by the bats. I haven't given many like play-by-play explanations for that reason that I mentioned, that the combat is so trivial. So it's not like I can say, hey, to clear this room, you just do this thing, and I don't need to like explain anything. Anything that happens is just easily visible on the screen. So, okay, here's B2, and these fucking stairs that collapse out from underneath you sometimes just don't fucking work. Sometimes you'll just step on them and they'll just collapse. And I can't explain why that is. And this is the part right here that's nonsense, because you have to like walk off the edge of the platform to make that jump. It's another one of those where you have to like walk off of the edge of a platform to jump off the edge of a platform. And if you fuck it up, you're fucked, because the staircase you were just on to let you make that jump has collapsed, and there's a giant rotating Beyblade coming up from the bottom of the screen that's going to kill you, and you can't get onto the other staircase that you missed. So that's just like, if you fuck up this really obnoxious jump, you just instantly get killed. And that guy, I don't know what the fuck that bone thrower's problem was. He usually jumps down way sooner than that, which is why I was just standing there. But there, he decided he was gonna fuck around. This part is like visually cool, but it's also nonsense, because those spikes that you see underneath the platforms, there's really no way, if this is your first time going through the room, to know where those are going to be. And this is the worst. This is even worse. Those spikes will kill you if you touch the side of them. So in that first little, pattern of floating rocks, if you mess up a jump and you jump so that you land on a floating platform, but you hit the side of one of those spikes, you get instantly killed. And I think dying from hitting the sides of spikes is one of the worst things in any of these games. I should also mention that these bone throwers are not present on normal mode, and these guys can actually be pretty dangerous, because they can knock you off of that ledge back there. Like that actually, which actually almost happened to me. Not that it would have mattered too much, because at this point I was settling on a 1cc. Okay, here we're gonna get to the boss fights that I actually like. I will say this for the game: 8 is bad, 9 is like fine, A is bad, or A is like middling, B is terrible, but the boss rush at the end of this game is my favorite part of the whole thing. And Slagra is like, it's exactly the kind of fight that I love, where it's like you are learning a pattern and you have to execute it correctly, and then the thing just fucking dies as long as you don't fuck up. And you can theoretically do it without like taking any damage. Although that has to come with an asterisk, which is that it's very difficult to avoid taking damage from this guy when he's in his second form like this. Because sometimes when he lands without the spear, he'll do like a super fast lunge like that, and it is dodgeable, but the timing for dodging it is super specific. You have to like jump in between, like when he hits the ground, he makes this dun sound. You have to jump like between the first dun and then the second one in like that sound, and the timing is like super specific. But I love the fact that it's still possible to dodge, even though it is really tricky. So I love Slagra, actually, and I love the way that the boss is designed, and that was a pretty good Slagra fight. I fucked up on phase 1, but which is usually the phase where you're like not supposed to fuck up. The idea with Slogger is that you're supposed to get through phase 1 without taking any damage, so that when you get to phase 2 and you're way more likely to take damage, you can survive, kill him before he kills you. But fortunately, there's a way to avoid taking damage in phase 2 also. So it doesn't end up being a dumb slugfest. This boss is also really cool because of the fact that you can like respond to his patterns and like defeat him, and you cannot take any damage. And I teabag his corpse because I killed him without taking any damage, which is what I really wanted. Not that I could have afforded to take one hit here, because in that torch on the left that just left the screen, there's a small meat you can eat before the death fight. So I could have taken one hit on that guy and it wouldn't have made a difference for the death fight, but I was just happy that I got a no damage kill anyway. And none of my death fights that I uploaded are particularly good. He kind of gives me a break both times, because he doesn't do... Death is difficult when he goes back and forth at the top of the screen and he keeps shooting those projectiles. That's when he's tricky. When he does this, it's pretty... I mean, the timing for face turning around and hitting him is pretty specific, but once you get into the rhythm of hitting him, it's not super hard, and it's very easy. You don't have to keep hitting him. You can just focus on dodging if you need to. But when he's going back and forth at the top of the screen throwing the projectiles, it's easy to get into a position where you can't flail effectively to block him, and he can sort of get shots in on you. But for both of the videos that I uploaded to my channel, he just did the go down at the corner of the screen and throw his hands in the air like he just doesn't care, and just let me kill him. So, that was fortunate. I once did a normal deathless attempt, where I died from walking off the edge of that invisible platform. And that was my death, and I had to restart the run. I will never forget that for as long as I live, because of just how... I guess you could say it's my fault for utilizing that platform, but it doesn't really give you any... It's really just a convenience thing, because you could accomplish getting however many hearts and shot multipliers you need for the Dracula fight just by going up and down the stairs and farming the torches. So as far as Dracula fights go, I really like this one. It's the kind of thing I was talking about before, where it's like a puzzle, where there are ways to react to what he does that are correct, and if you execute them correctly, he will die, and you will not. And that's what... In Phase 1 of Dracula there is the other time when flailing your whip is useful. The first time is when Death is shooting projectiles at you. The second time is that part there. And I don't know if there's another way to do it. I never could figure out how else to block like the second projectiles after you destroy the first one. Dodging these flames also, that little jump that I did there, like jump and swing, is like... Once I figured that out, once I figured out like the positioning and the timing for that, this phase became like so much more consistent and so much more manageable. And that's the kind of thing that I talk about when I mean like a puzzle that you solve. Like, I figured out the correct positioning for dealing with those fires, and now I can, as long as I just execute that correctly, I'll like never get hit by them, and I've learned the fight effectively. And if I fuck up and I don't do it, I don't fucking instantly die. You know what I mean? This phase is like, I don't know. It's kind of anticlimactic. In the other games, when Dracula turns into a giant monster, it's like cool. Here he's just like more fucked up looking, and he's summoning lightning that you can just dodge. So, I mean, not that this lightning is easy to dodge, but I just dodged all of it, and it wasn't particularly close. So, I like the fact that it plays the Simon's theme, though. It's very anime. It's very playing the OP when the main hero is fighting the main bad guy in the season finale, which I approve of. And there it is. The bat is dead, and I hit the action shot that I wanted to get, where it looks like Simon is staring up at the broken window, marveling under the light of Christ. So this was bittersweet, because like I said, I was going for Deathless, and then after I got my ridiculous death on level A that was just literally me walking off the edge of a platform, I just decided, fuck it, that I would just give up and accept a 1 death, 1 CC. So, I don't know. I feel bad actually about most of the things involving this video now, actually, because I feel like most of my commentary was me criticizing and complaining. So I'll try to end on a positive note by saying that I do really like Simon's boots. I think his armor is kind of strange. I don't know why his armor is green. His armor, I guess it's to make him stand out, but like so much of the rest of the game is like green and brown. Okay, what do I like about this game? I like some of the music. Some of the music is really good. I like Simon's theme. I like the design of a lot of the boss fights, even if I don't necessarily like the way that the bosses are fought. I like the way that they look. Like, that's the case for pretty much every boss in the game, except for, I don't know, except for maybe the Rock Man at the end of level 4. And, like, the dancers at the end of level 6 are kind of just not very interesting. You know, level 6, that whole level reminds me of Karazhan from World of Warcraft. I feel like there's some direct inspiration going on there. But and you know, I do like, this game does make you feel like you're going on an adventure. The fact that it makes you slog through the first 4 pre-castle levels does make you feel like you're going on like on an expansive quest. Like, I'll give credit where credit is due. They did succeed in that. And I'm sure that's what they were going for. They actually were planning on implementing route splits in this game, and I think if you look at the map, like the large map that it shows you, I think there actually is an alternate path to the castle, or looks like an alternate path to the castle on the map. It could just be the way that the map is laid out, but that's how it seems. Just a little fun fact that I could be completely imagining. And I like level 5. I like the fact that it kind of creates this atmosphere as you come up to Dracula's castle. I like a lot of things about this game. I don't like the fact that it interrupts your trek through Dracula's castle to make you go through a fucking cave level in level 8, and that it's the worst level in the entire game. But I like a lot of the rest of the back half of the game. And I don't like the B2 stairs, but I like most of level B. I love the boss rush at the end. I think that's the coolest part. I think it's the best part of the whole game. So the game does end on a high note, despite the horror that comes before it. And I mean every Castlevania game is good, right? With the exception of like Legends and Adventure, every Castlevania game is good. So everything that I've said about, I mean, I would not have put the time into this game that I did if I didn't like this game, if I didn't like have some fun playing this game. And I do have fun playing this game, but it's just like when you go for these challenge runs, the things that trip you up really stand out to you, and so it becomes frustrating. But in a casual playthrough, in like a normal playthrough of this game is great, and it's super forgiving because it starts you off with like 5 lives, and there's 1-ups in all over the place. So this is a good game. This is a good game. This is not a bad game. This is not a badly designed game. This is a good game that has some flaws, as almost all games do. So don't misunderstand me here. And you know, I don't usually recommend games, but I would 100% recommend this game because it is so. It's like it breaks free of the Castlevania restrictive movement, restrictive attack, like autism template that could otherwise. That I think could be very off-putting to people who aren't accustomed to it or who are used to more conventional modes of control. So it's a very accessible Castlevania game, is what I'm sort of trying to get at, and I appreciate that. Like I think it's great that they made this fun, adventurous, experimental game because they wanted to do 8-directional whipping. I think they wanted to do multi-directional whipping in Castlevania 3, but never got around to it. They experimented with it here. You know, I think it created some problems, but I'm glad that they tried it. You know, I'm glad that they experimented, and this game does feel really distinct. It really has its own identity that's really separate from the other games, and that I really like. And I don't know why these curtains are green. These curtains should be red. Can I just interrupt myself real quick and say these curtains should be red? It should look like the fucking Red Room from Twin Peaks. That's just my opinion. I love the death fight, I love the Dracula fight, I love the Slogger fight, I love the whatever the gargoyle is for the death fight. So there are lots of things about this game that I like. I hope I didn't piss anybody off. I hope you guys accept that these are my subjective opinions of a piece of art, and that I do stand by them, but that yours are not wrong. So I love you all, and have an excellent rest of your day, and yeah.